Warner Brothers, a studio that shaped the last 100 years of entertainment, is being absorbed into Netflix in a deal valued at $82.7 billion. How did one of Hollywood's most iconic companies, the birthplace of The Dark Knight, Harry Potter, and HBO's golden era, reach a point where selling became its most realistic future? This is the story of Warner Bros.' rise and the forces that led to its fall. If you want to learn about more brands, major business stories, and how companies rise or collapse, make sure to subscribe for more and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Today, we're going to talk about how one of the most influential studios in history ended up becoming part of a streaming giant that didn't even exist when Warner Brothers was founded. To understand this moment, we need to go back to the beginning, way before streaming wars, mergers, or billion-dollar deals, back to 1923, when four brothers had a dream that would change cinema forever. Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack Warner started Warner Brothers at a time when the film industry was still figuring out what it could become. Movies were silent, theaters were small, and Hollywood was still young. But the Warner Brothers had vision. They believed sound would transform movies, even when most studios dismissed the idea as too expensive and too risky. Their gamble paid off with the release of The Jazz Singer in 1927. It was the first feature-length film with synchronized dialogue, and it changed the entertainment industry overnight. Warner Brothers went from a small, struggling studio to a major force, almost instantly. From there, the studio grew rapidly. It built a foundation that would support generations of storytellers, filmmakers, and iconic characters. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck became cultural symbols. Later, the studio would shepherd legendary franchises like Superman, Batman, The Matrix, Harry Potter, and countless others. For decades, Warner Brothers wasn't just a studio, it was Hollywood itself. Its influence shaped the golden age of cinema and set benchmarks for what movies could achieve. As the decades passed, Warner Brothers adapted to every major technological shift, from black and white to color, from theaters to television, from VHS tapes to cable, from DVD box sets to early digital distribution. And at the center of all this innovation stood HBO, one of Warner's crown jewels. HBO redefined television with groundbreaking series and prestige programming that made Sunday night TV a cultural event. For a long time, Warner Brothers seemed unstoppable. But behind the scenes, the media landscape was changing. Technology was advancing faster than old systems could keep up. The rise of the internet, digital advertising, and on-demand content created a new generation of companies built for speed, data, and global reach. Then came Netflix. What started as a DVD by mail service evolved into a streaming platform that would disrupt the entire industry. As Netflix grew, traditional studios found themselves forced into a game they weren't prepared to play. Streaming required massive investments in content, constant releases, global infrastructure, and advanced algorithms to keep viewers engaged. This new model wasn't just expensive, it was fundamentally different from the business Warner Brothers had mastered for decades. By the late 2010s, Warner Brothers faced declining cable TV revenues, shrinking DVD profits, and growing pressure to compete with platforms backed by billions in tech-driven capital. In response, Warner launched HBO Max, a premium streaming service that combined HBO's prestige content with Warner Bros.' vast library. The platform earned praise, but it struggled with high costs, internal restructuring, and a rapidly evolving competitive landscape. Running a streaming service at scale required levels of investment and long-term patience that traditional media companies were rarely allowed by shareholders. And then everything became even more complicated. In 2018, AT&T purchased Time Warner, including Warner Brothers and HBO, for more than $85 billion. The goal was ambitious: merge telecom and entertainment, leveraging content to boost wireless subscribers. But culturally and strategically, the fit was awkward. AT&T's focus was on infrastructure, not storytelling, and the merger burdened Warner with enormous amounts of debt. Creative teams faced new constraints, budgets tightened, and long-term planning became nearly impossible. Just a few years later, in 2022, AT&T spun off Warner Media and merged it with Discovery to form Warner Brothers Discovery, another massive corporate restructuring, again supported by heavy borrowing. With each merger, The company took on more debt, more obligations, and more pressure to deliver short-term financial results. Meanwhile, Netflix, Disney+, Amazon, and Apple continued pushing forward with global scale and seemingly endless cash reserves. By 2025, Warner Bros. Was carrying tens of billions in debt and facing brutal competition in the streaming arena. HBO Max had strong content but lacked the subscriber numbers needed to sustain the expensive production cycles. Cable networks were losing viewers rapidly. Film releases were hit or miss in a post-pandemic market where audiences were increasingly selective. Under this financial pressure, Warner Bros. Was forced to make tough decisions, canceling projects, shelving films, cutting staff, and reevaluating its entire business. The debt load limited innovation. It restricted the studio's ability to take creative risks. It forced leadership to focus more on quarterly performance than long-term strategy. And perhaps most importantly, it prevented Warner from keeping pace with tech giants who could afford to invest billions into streaming without worrying about immediate profitability. This is where Netflix enters the picture. Netflix had not only survived the streaming wars. By 2025, it had emerged as the most globally dominant platform. It had the infrastructure, subscriber base, recommendation engine, and international reach that most competitors struggled to match. But Netflix wanted something it didn't yet have: a deep, legacy-rich library of evergreen franchises. Warner Bros. Offered exactly that. By acquiring Warner Bros. And HBO Max for an enterprise value of $82.7 billion, with shareholders receiving around $72 billion in equity value, Netflix will instantly gain access to some of the most valuable intellectual property in entertainment history. Harry Potter, DC, Looney Tunes, Middle-earth, Dune, The Conjuring universe, classic sitcoms, and decades of film and TV archives all will become part of Netflix's content ecosystem. For Netflix, this acquisition isn't just about owning a studio. It is about strengthening the platform's future. It is about ensuring a constant flow of recognizable, globally beloved content. And for Warner Bros., the deal offers something the company desperately needs: stability, global scale, and relief from an unsustainable financial burden. In many ways, this sale isn't a sudden collapse. It is the result of years of structural challenges, misaligned mergers, overwhelming debt, shifting consumer habits, and an entertainment landscape transformed by technology. Warner Bros. Didn't fail because it lacked creativity or legacy. It struggled because the business it dominated for a century no longer operated under the same rules. The economic model that once powered Hollywood studios simply couldn't compete with platforms built on data, scale, and subscription revenue. With this acquisition, Hollywood enters a new era. The number of major studios shrinks. Market power consolidates. Streaming becomes dominated by a few global platforms. The line between content creator and distributor blur even further. And audiences will feel these changes through pricing, availability, and the kinds of stories that get prioritized. From its humble beginnings in 1923 to this transformative moment in 2025, Warner Bros. Has been a cornerstone of global entertainment. Its films, shows, and characters shaped culture around the world. And now, will be under Netflix. It begins a new chapter, one that blends nearly a century of storytelling tradition with the infrastructure of the digital age. This is not the end of Warner Bros. It is a reinvention, a strategic shift, and a recognition that even the most iconic companies must adapt to survive. The legacy of Warner Bros. Will continue, just on a platform built for the future. And if you want to learn more about the rise and fall of major brands, business strategies, and the stories behind the companies shaping our world, make sure to subscribe for more.